Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my thoughts on the 2023 Oscars. Now, normally I don't really do videos about the Oscars, despite being such a big fan of film, because, I don't know, over the years I've just fallen out of appreciation or care for the ceremony. I guess in large part, I felt that the ceremony was starting to not necessarily be about awards for the best in the business, but really about ticking off certain boxes and virtue signaling and politics. And that to me was a massive turnoff. And I know the Oscars has had those elements throughout the years, but it just felt like it escalated and it became amplified over the past few years. So I just wasn't really into it. I just didn't really care anymore. I think another reason for it is that the award that I always followed year after year, the Makeup Special Effects Award, was completely altered, and it was no longer an award for best makeup special effects. It's an award for makeup and hairstyling. And when that happened, that really caused me to not really pay a whole lot of attention to the ceremony even more. And also, despite the slap that was heard around the world when it comes to Will Smith slapping Chris Rock in last year's Oscars, that wasn't even something that I felt like I wanted to talk about, despite the fact that it was absolutely a topic that I could have discussed and could have shared my thoughts on, but I just wasn't really that passionate about it. Like, it was a shocking event, and it's still one of those things that I can't believe actually happened. But that was like one of the only things really worth talking about when it comes to the Oscars in terms of the stories, in terms of the moments. But this year I felt was different because I thought that there were so many just wonderful moments and so many great unexpected wins, as well as some wins and some awards that I disagreed with. And I felt that there were a lot of highs when it comes to this year's Oscars, as well as some intriguing and captivating lows in their own right. So I felt that there was enough variety with this show to actually talk about it. And I felt that there were a handful of things that I definitely could showcase some passion about when it comes to a discussion of the show. So that's why I'm here. That's why I decided to do a video on the 95th Oscars ceremony. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the category that got me into the Oscars in the first place, best makeup and hairstyling. Now, it wasn't initially best makeup and hairstyling. Like I said, it was best makeup effects, a award that was invented solely to honor makeup special effects artists like Rick Baker and Rob Bottin and Chris Walas and so on throughout the 80s and 90s, because the award had never existed until the 1981 awards season. So the award this year had a total of 5 nominees. You had Elvis, which was by Mark Collier, Jason Baird, and Aldo Signoretti. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Camille Friend, and Joel Harlow. The Batman, Naomi Dawn, Mike Marino, and Mike Fontaine. Um, All Quiet on the Western Front, Heike Merker and Linda Hamarova, and The Whale, which had its makeup and hairstyling done by Adrienne Moreau, Judy Chin, and Anne Marie Bradley. And The Whale won. And having seen The Whale, it was a much deserved award. And it was really nice to see a film that actually had real makeup effects win. And it wasn't one of those things where the award went to a film that had the best lipstick and eyeliner and eyeshadow and concealer and foundation appliances and best looking hair like other films in the past where it wasn't even really makeup effects. It was just traditional makeup and hairstyling. And it was really nice to see a actual makeup effect win the award again, because it's just something that was a little cathartic for me. I got to be honest, because like I said, I followed the Oscars for many years just to see who would win, who won that award, because it was something that I was passionate about and fascinated by, and I still am. Some of the best moments in my life to date have been meeting the the men behind these amazing makeup effects in person, meeting Chris Walas, meeting Rick Baker. Um, those are two of the best moments of my life, and it's really awesome to see legitimate makeup special effects get the accolade, get the award again. And what's really cool about what the effects artist for The Whale did is that they combined computer technology. They combined applications and programs that scanned Brendan Fraser's face and his body and created a template for a fat suit or a practical effect that the makeup effects artist would then take and turn it into a combination of latex and all of these other different appliances and forms of practical effects. And through that combination, these artists are able to provide even more detail with things than ever before. And it's a marriage of computer technology and practical effects, and the results are astonishing. And I really hope that this is something that continues to be used as the years go by, because it's really a game changer. And it was so refreshing to see a film that showcased a morbidly obese individual in a way that wasn't comical, that wasn't Fat Bastard from Austin Powers or the Nutty Professor, the guy with a little bit of the skinny guy with the fat on his face, the double chin and like this big cartoonish stomach and padding and all of that. It wasn't that. It was something that had a lot of gravity to it. It was something that actually looked legitimate. It looked real. Like Brendan Fraser was transformed into this sickly, morbidly obese man, and the work that the artists did to make that illusion was incredible. So it was really awesome to see them get their due for their work. And I'm glad not something like Black Panther Wakanda Forever didn't win, because there's not much in terms of legitimate makeup effects in that film. Same goes for Elvis. I mean, yeah, you have the stuff with um the Colonel, Tom Hanks, but what Adrian, Judy, and Anne-Marie did with the whale is far more impressive. The Batman, there's some good stuff with the Penguin, but that's kind of about it. And All Quiet on the Western Front, like, what makeup effects, other than maybe some gore, in terms of like the violence of war, or maybe like some old age stuff, but like nothing really that worth that much when it comes to makeup effects. So it was great. It was great to see that, because one of the one year I remember following the Oscars like a long time. I think it was like it was the year Suicide Squad came out, and I remember seeing Star Trek Beyond lose to Suicide Squad, and I thought that was just insulting. And it was nice to see the right film win the award this year for best makeup effects. Now, one other thing I want to talk about is, of course, visual effects. Another thing that I've always been really fascinated by, ever since the days of Industrial Light and Magic and so on and so forth. And the nominees for visual effects were Avatar: The Way of Water, All Quiet on the Western Front, The Batman, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and Top Gun: Maverick. And to me personally, from the films that I've seen, because I haven't seen All Quiet on the Western Front or Wakanda Forever yet, but from the films that I've seen, Avatar 2 and Top Gun: Maverick were the two front runners. And for me, I would have been fine with either one winning, but I definitely felt that Way of Water was the favorite. And I was gunning for it. And I was hoping that it won the Oscar, and it did. And it is very much deserved. The work by Joe Letteri, Richard Bainham, Eric Saindon, and Daniel Barrett. Because that film, just like its predecessor, Avatar, has some of the most amazing, just awe-inspiring visual effects that you will ever see on any screen. Um, so yeah, those two categories were ones that I paid a lot of attention to because I'm very into special effects. I also paid attention to sound because I think sound design is something that is incredibly underrated and doesn't get enough appreciation or respect from a lot of people. And Top Gun Maverick won, and I thought that was magnificent. That was marvelous. It was great. I would have been fine if the Batman won. I don't know about Avatar: Way of Water. Elvis would have been a film that I would have been okay with winning for best sound as well because it's a very musical film, and David Lee, Wayne Pashley, Andy Nelson, and Michael Keller just did great jobs collectively bringing to life and just making Elvis's sound into something that was just so spectacular. But Top Gun Maverick is a booming, just epic film, and with the jet engines firing, and it's just a very sonically spectacular experience. So I'm really really glad that it was honored with the Oscar for best sound. Um, One of the other things, speaking of sound, I wanted to mention Lady Gaga's stripped down performance of Hold My Hand. It was an impromptu thing by her. She wasn't even planning on doing it this way. She stripped down to, just a t shirt and some jeans, not really anything fancy. I don't even know if she was even wearing any makeup. And she sat on a stool and sang her heart out and poured her soul out on stage and sang a very stripped down version of Hold My Hand, with just a little bit of piano and her vocals. And I thought it was just really powerful. And as someone who has been a very musical person for most of their life, um, the performance definitely moved me. And when she dedicated it to Tony Scott at the end of her set, it moved me even more. I thought that was really nice. I thought that was very sweet of her to do that. And yes, I'm not 100% sure whether or not she was the one that made that call or it was just the Oscars themselves, the people behind the production. But whoever it was, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to have that image that says, in memory of Tony Scott after her performance. It wasn't something that they had to do, but they chose to do it. And I thought that was really nice because Tony to me is a terrific, tremendous, he was a terrific and tremendous filmmaker who did Top Gun and so many other films that mean a lot to me. And it's still such a tragic shame that he took his own life and is no longer with us. And it was really nice to see him get honored in such a way and have that tribute to him, because it showcased that the Academy, as well as, Lady Gaga and other people, they had a lot of genuine appreciation for Tony and for what he brought to the realm of cinema. And speaking of those that were lost, there was a nice um, moment where Lenny Kravitz sang a song while there was a montage of different people in the industry who had passed. And prior to Lenny Kravitz singing, John Travolta came on and was very emotional when it comes to introducing the in memoriam segment. And I'm getting a little emotional, choked up thinking about it, because John lost so many people in such a short amount of time that just meant so much to him in his life. You really got to think about it and really just let it kind of sink in, because I think some people think, oh, he's a celebrity, and or he's a Scientologist, or he's this or that, and I don't think people really think about him necessarily as a person, and I really feel that it's something that is kind of overlooked when it comes to celebrities. And just put yourself in John's shoes. He lost his wife to cancer. He lost one of his sons. He lost his two best friends, and Kirstie Alley and Olivia Newton-John, all in the span of just a couple years. So in a span of like 1 or 2 years, he lost that many people in his life. So my heart goes out to him and to the families of those that were taken from us last year. Um, and yeah, I definitely felt that was a very poignant and powerful moment from the show. Another category that I also feel is a little overlooked is production design. See, I talked about sound, talked about Lady Gaga's tribute to Tony Scott, and I feel that production design is something, along with film editing, which is another really underrated part of the film production process. Which, by the way, Everything Everywhere All at Once won the award for that, and it was very well deserved, because that film has so many different things going on in it, and it honestly has some of the most excellent and just incredible, just awesome editing that I've seen in a film in a long time. But with production design, so much of the mood and the atmosphere and the realism or the authenticity or the illusion of the world that the film is trying to place you in as an audience is due to the production design. And in years past, it felt like a lot of production design awards went to films that actually created something that was unlike anything that you've seen on screen for the most part. They weren't giving production design to a film that was just another war movie. They were giving production design to films that really did create something out of this world, or off the comic or book page, or so on and so forth. Stuff like Superman the movie, those kind of things. And I don't know what happened. At a certain point, then production design became an award that was getting presented to films like Howard's End, which looked like, your average everyday Victorian era drama. And that wins Best Production Design over something like Toys, which to me created some of the most mind blowing original production design ever put on film. with Zeebo's Toy Factory and pretty much everything in that movie. It's a beautiful film when it comes to its visuals and its production design and its art direction. And it lost to Howard's End. Unbelievable to me. And I still think it's one of the biggest snubs. It's right up there with John Carpenter's The Thing, not even getting a single nomination for its visual effects, let alone its practical makeup effects. But this year is not really that different. I think Avatar The Way of Water should have won because there was a lot of stuff in that film where it created something that was completely 100% unique and unlike your typical realm or world that you saw on the screen. And yeah, it lost to All Quiet on the Western Front. And to be honest, a lot of the production design nominees were disappointing. The Fablemans, yeah, they did a good job with that film too. Elvis, I could honestly see the film winning because the production design was really good with that film. I honestly could see. I wish it won over All Quiet on the Western Front. You know, if Avatar's not going to win out of all the nominees, I would have rather had Elvis win because Elvis had production design where it recreated multiple different decades when it comes to the production design and the art direction. All Quiet on the Western Front is just another World War One war movie. It's a film that, yes, I haven't seen yet, but from what I saw in the trailer, I didn't think it was any more impressive than what 1917 did. So, yeah, I'm disappointed in production design going to films like All Quiet on the Western Front or Howard's End or some other historical drama or biographical epic because these are all films that are creating production design based on things that already exist. There are countless hours of footage of World War One sequences that actually took place in history. So you have countless real battle footage to use. You have photographs. You have all these different things to cull from and to take inspiration from when it comes to the costume design or the art direction or the production design in terms of recreating the look of a bunker or the weaponry or any of this other stuff with a war movie. So to me, I think that is some of the most least impressive production design when it comes to a film is some historical biographical movie, you know, like Lincoln or so on. Because these are all things that already exist in history. You have photographs, you have all these different things to use to base the creation of the production design on. When it comes to some of these big sci-fi epics, when it comes to, you know, a fantasy film, when it comes to those kind of movies, you don't have that. You have the mind and the creativity of the production designer and what they are able to bring to the screen that people haven't seen before. That's what you have to base the production design off of. And to me, that's so much more impressive and so much more worth praising than just your typical war movie. It may be a really good film and it may do a great job in terms of recreating the look of World War One, but it's still another war movie. But despite, you know, my feelings on that, um, there were still so many great moments when it comes to this year's show. And so many moments of just pure emotion. And this had some of the most wonderful, emotional, just great moments in Oscar history, if you ask me. It really did feel like a complete and total opposite when it comes to the way that it made you feel compared to a lot of the years past. And I think a big part of that is because of two or three moments. The first moment is Brendan Fraser winning for Best Actor. After everything that Brendan went through in the past, his wife divorcing him and putting him through the ringer, him being sexually assaulted by a powerful man in Hollywood, and being essentially blacklisted by Hollywood and a lot of people in the industry because he came out and was honest about what happened to him. Which, when you think about that, in today's day and age, that is really, really disappointing and honestly upsetting that Brendan came out and had the guts to speak his truth, and so many people in the industry blacklisted him. They blackballed him. They didn't take him seriously. Disgusting. It really was. And for the same industry that didn't believe him, that turned their back on him, to give him this respect and this admiration is, it's astonishing. It's so powerful. And it's not just them realizing that, wow, Brendan, we should have took him seriously. We should appreciate Brendan. We should protect Brendan because he's such a great actor as well as a great person. But also for everyone that has been in his corner for his entire career, to see him have this moment, it was priceless. It really was. I grew up watching Brendan Fraser movies, like a lot of people my age did. I grew up with Encino Man. I grew up with George of the Jungle. I even grew up with Dudley Do Right. You know, years later, I discovered films like School Ties. But you know, I was a huge Brendan Fraser fan. I mean, The Mummy Returns, those two were on constant rotation when I was a teenager, and so were those other films that I mentioned. So I was always a big fan of Brendan's, and I always felt he was underappreciated and he was overlooked and didn't get enough respect from his peers and from other people in the industry. And when I found out what was going on with him and his life and how he was getting a raw deal, it really sucked to see that. When I saw that he came out and said that he was assaulted, and I saw the reaction that people had, and it was one of disbelief instead of care, that really upset me. But just to see him get another chance from Darren Aronofsky with The Whale, and to see him have this renaissance, has just been one of the best moments of this year. Just to see all of that culminate with him winning the award. You could tell when he came up to the stage and he was given the Oscar and he was doing his speech, which, got to be honest, a little too much whale puns. But you know, his heart was in the right place. But I felt there was a little too much when it comes to like the whale references in his speech. Could have personalized it a little bit more. But you could tell that he couldn't believe that this was happening, that this was real. He's looking down at the Oscar, and you can just see it in his eyes and the way that he's acting, that he's stunned. And it broke me when I saw that footage for the first time. I cried because Brendan finally had this moment. He finally reached the top of the movie mountain, so to speak, and it could not happen to a better person. And having seen The Whale and what he did in that film under pounds and pounds and pounds of makeup, it was a performance that was worthy of the accolades and the praise and the award and then some. And to still see Brendan be so humble and appreciative even after that, like you look at the after party interview on YouTube, and he's thanking his internet fans. He's doing all these different things. He's saying the right things. He even said once after he was getting the standing ovation backstage, he was like, "Is this how it's always gonna be?" Yeah, Brendan, and it should be because it's very well deserved. It's great to see a good man who's also a good actor get his praise, get his reward. So yeah, that was one of the best moments of the show. But it wasn't the only great moment because then you have Kay. You have Huy Quan, who wins for Best Supporting Actor when it comes to his performance as Waymond in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And his inspiring story of coming to America as an immigrant on a boat, having his big break in Temple of Doom and following it up with the Goonies, and then struggling to get work for a long time and being typecast, and then retiring from acting and thinking that, you know what, my dream is to be taken seriously as an actor, to be a part of a serious film production and to get a chance at winning an Oscar, but that's never going to happen. For that dream to actually come to fruition, for his biggest dream in life to come true, is so awesome. It's so amazing. And to see him share that with not only his peers and with his fellow actors and actresses and people in the industry, but also with all of us is so special. It really is. And Kay, just like Brendan, is a very grounded, down to earth kind of guy, a good man who deserves a lot of good things in life. And his speech was so inspiring. I got to be honest, folks, I've kind of been a little bit in a rut. I felt a lot of lack of motivation in my life, and I've really been feeling like, things are just not gonna ever go my way, the way that I want them to. And for Kay to put these things into perspective in his moment and to say, be patient. If my dream can come true, then so can yours. It really spoke to me. It really did. It really touched me. And I needed that. And I really appreciate Kay for doing that. And you know what's so cool? And if I'm mispronouncing his name, I apologize immensely. I'm not as well versed when it comes to saying these names as well as others, but he deserved that to me. And to be honest, so did other Asian actors in the past. Like John Cho. Like John Cho deserved an Oscar nomination at the very least for what he did in Searching. But I feel that Quan also deserved his award and the accolades that he received for his work in Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it's such a incredible performance when you put it into context. This man had not acted in 25 years. Think about that, folks. Think about not doing something for 25 years and then coming in and just nailing it that is not common. I mean, you look at his performance in that film, how layered it is, how it has so many different factors to it, how he plays so many different versions of this character throughout the multiverse. He showcases his talents when it comes to showcasing emotion and humbleness and playing this character who you sympathize with in a lot of different ways, as well as another version of his character who's a badass who can hold his own in a fight. And all of these things are equally as convincing as the other when it comes to these elements of his performance. Very difficult performance to pull off, even for somebody who had been acting for 25 years prior to getting that role. So the fact that he hadn't worked for 25 years until this film and he was this good is amazing and something that is every bit as worthy of whatever accolade he gets, as well as the award. And it doesn't stop there with Quan, because another just great, awesome moment was when Everything Everywhere All at Once was given the award for Best Picture. There's this just awesome moment with Harrison Ford, who presented the award, and Quan, and they're hugging, and Harrison is just ecstatic. He can't help himself. He's so happy for Quan, and Quan is so happy in that moment to share it with Harrison, and it was so awesome and such a great moment. And it's honestly a moment that I think is unforgettable. It's an unforgettable moment in Oscar history, if you ask me. Just those two and their embrace. Because if you think about it, Temple of Doom was probably shot in 83. It came out in 84, and it was a pretty extensive production. There were a fair amount of delays. So I'm pretty sure the film was probably shot sometime in 1983. And if that's the case, that was 40 years ago. And so 40 years later, Harrison and Quan have that moment when Everything Everywhere All at Once wins the Oscar for Best Picture the same night that Kay won for Best Supporting Actor. I mean, it's the kind of thing that leaves you with no words, because did anyone think that was going to happen? Did anyone think that Short Round was going to win an Oscar and Indiana was going to present it to him 40 years later? No. Would never have thought that in a million years. So that was a really great, awesome moment in Oscar history. And Everything Everywhere All at Once was the big winner of the entire night. And I think it definitely deserved it. I mean, it was nominated for 11 Oscars and it won 7, including Best Picture, Best Screenplay, Best Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, Best Editing. Um, and you could argue that it could have been nominated and won even more, like Best Production Design. I really feel it should have gotten nominated for that, considering all the different styles and all the different genres of film that the film had throughout the entire production. Another great moment that ties into Everything Everywhere All at Once is Michelle Yeoh winning for her performance in the film and getting the award for Best Actress. Her performance in that film was astonishing to me in a multitude of different ways. I mean, it is a performance that, when it comes to the level of difficulty, is one of the most difficult performances I've seen in any film, because of the fact that she plays not only one version of her character, but so many other different versions of her character through so many different alternate timelines. It was a very thought provoking and difficult role, and she absolutely nailed it. Nailed every aspect of it. Was equally amazing in every role and everything she was asked to do. And for an actress who has been impressive in so many different ways for so long, to get her due was great. It was great to see. It was great to see Michelle have that win and have that moment. And it was great for Asian actresses, for Asian women to have that moment to share that with her. And speaking of actresses, it was nice to see Jamie Lee Curtis get her due and get her award for best supporting actress. And I know it caused a lot of controversy and I will get to that soon enough. But Jamie Lee Curtis, to me, she's always been a very capable actress. And I think her performance is definitely one of the most challenging of her career. And I feel that even though Stephanie Hsu, for me personally, was more deserving of the award for her role in the same film, and even some of the other actresses that were nominated, like Carrie Condon and so on and so forth, I could see them winning. And I could see the more merits when it comes to them winning than Jamie Lee Curtis. I think what was factored in was the fact that Jamie Lee Curtis had been acting for many, 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 many years. This is her first Oscar nomination and probably her last, because who knows how much longer she's going to be with us. And on top of that, is she ever really going to do another performance that is this challenging and this difficult and this intriguing again in her career? Probably not. And so I think there was a little bit of that going on. And I think that's what ultimately led to her winning, is that was like the extra push. Whether it's fair or not is up to debate. I've seen this happen a decent amount of times when it comes to the Oscars, where you have certain actors and or actresses that you could argue would be more deserving of the accolade or the award, and it goes to someone else. Like, for instance, I feel Michael Keaton was robbed when it comes to Birdman. I feel he should have won the Oscar for Best Actor that year over Eddie Redmayne, who he didn't do a bad job as Stephen Hawking in Theory of Everything, but his performance is based on an actual person. And he did a great job imitating that person, but it really wasn't a performance that was inherently his. What Keaton did was inherently his own. And I just feel like that's something that should have gotten the award for. And I can see why people feel that Carrie Condon for Banshees should have gotten it. Stephanie Hsu in particular. But I mean, Jamie Lee, for some reason, she wins, and there's a lot of people who aren't giving her the moment. And I think that's unfortunate in a lot of different ways. Like, there are people on social media that are saying that Stephanie should have won and she got robbed. And Stephanie herself would be disappointed in the way that a lot of her fans are acting when it comes to the result of the Best Actress uh, race for the award, because she was beaming. She was thrilled for Jamie when Jamie was announced as a winner. And Jamie also had one of the most natural and awesome reactions I've ever seen from anyone who's ever won an Oscar. She gets her name announced and she's like, "Oh, oh, oh, shit!" Like she's just absolutely stunned. She's just like, "Oh, shut up!" She's like, "Shut up! There's no way. There's no way. There's no way that I just won." And they're like, "Nope, you did, Jamie Lee. Come on, come on the stage and get your award." And she's just like, "Oh, shut up." And I thought that was really sweet to see that in that moment she was still just being herself, even in front of all those people and at such a ceremony and such a prestigious event. And I love the speech that she had when she gave appreciation to the genre fans. And you know what genre fans she's talking to. She's talking to the fans of Halloween and The Fog and Terror Train, as well as fans of Trading Places or True Lies. She's talking about those fans and sharing this big moment with them. And I do feel Jamie Lee did a great job in Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I do feel that there is an argument to be had for her winning the award. I don't feel that she was undeserving of it. And I'm definitely not gonna handle it like Angela Bassett did, which that was also very unfortunate. And I'll talk about that when it comes to the lows of the show. But to me, Jamie Lee winning was one of the highlights because honestly, I didn't expect it, and at the same time, it was really nice to see her get appreciation for everything that she's done throughout her career, and a lot of extra accolades for the challenging role that she did in that film. I mean, she played a grumpy tax specialist, a trained assassin, and a gay lover with hot dog fingers in the same movie. And each part of that performance was as effective as the last. So I do feel it was a really good performance by Jamie Lee Curtis and worthy of the nomination. So if you get nominated, to me, whoever wins is worthy of the trophy. I don't feel anyone who gets nominated is undeserving most of the time, except for maybe Rami Malek for Bohemian Rhapsody. I still don't know why he was nominated, let alone won, because all he did was just cosplay as Freddie Mercury for the entire movie. He didn't even sing. I mean, Austin Butler did a lot more, and if he wasn't up against Brendan Fraser, I think he would have been a runaway when it comes to a favorite for Best Actor. And Taron Egerton for Rocket Man didn't even get nominated. But that's a whole other story. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say when it comes to like the highs of the show, when it comes to like the great moments, because if already talked about them, at least the ones that really connected with me. Um I'm sure there's other moments that might have connected with other people, but there's a lot of the other categories that really didn't really do much for me at all. In terms of intrigue, really could care less.